Hello, everybody.
Hey there, I'm Natalie.
I'm Rebecca.
We're your Liberty ladies, and we
Unite.
unite.
So, I think we're talking more about election fraud today. That seems to be the big subject. And give me a second here. I am. Okay, there we go. Hello, everybody. I wanted to watch our stream, okay, so I can see if anybody's chatting with us. So anyway, so we had another really great week on our radio broadcast on Saturday. And it looks like we're generating quite a few fans.
And some non-fans, but that's okay. They keep things fun.
You know, I don't know if I would necessarily not call them fans. I think they're fans because they can't help themselves. They have to listen to us.
Right. Antagonists. Maybe we should call them antagonists.
Yeah, but we love those people because it makes for some great conversations.
Oh, and how it does. Yes.
Yes, I'm sure that Chris will probably be calling us back on a weekly basis. I don't think he's going to be able to help himself.
He's been sending stuff to our Facebook account nonstop. Unfortunately, most of it is leftist talking points with very little in the way of facts, but you know, he's a work in progress.
Absolutely, sure. Who knows? Wouldn't it be something if we actually converted him?
Right? I'm not going to hold my breath, though. Really not going to hold my breath.
No. He's pretty entrenched in the talking points. So I found an interesting article that I wanted to talk about. And the source is through a website called Distributed News. And it says Distributed News, top stories from independent journalists across the web. So, I mean, that sounds like a pretty good source to me. So some of you might have noticed the other day, you might have heard that interview with Sidney Powell. I think it was on, was it Maria Bartiromo that was interviewing her, I think?
Yeah, I think it was Maria Bartiromo.
Yeah, and I like Maria Bartiromo. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if she's not long for Fox News. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they try to push her out.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point Fox is going to try again to get rid of most of their conservative pundits.
Yeah. So they were talking about the election fraud thing, and Sidney Powell made a comment that I found rather interesting, and I did a little bit of digging about it, and I haven't totally confirmed this, but I've just got some ideas. She said something about how the evidence was just pouring in like a fire hose, and she made a comment where she said, "Release the Kraken." Now, at first I thought that's just maybe something she's saying, like, those of you that might have seen the movie Clash of the Titans, and you know what the Kraken is. It's this big monster that's almost unstoppable. And I was thinking that maybe she's talking about, okay, we're just going to really, you guys are really in for it because we're really going to unleash a lot of stuff on you that's going to expose this corruption. But I have a theory that Kraken is a little bit more literal. I'm thinking Kraken, and I don't know if I heard her talking about this or somebody else, but that Kraken is some kind of a surveillance software that has the ability to basically burrow past any firewall and any encryption, and that they are going to use it to expose the fraud in these companies that were involved in this election fraud. So you've heard about Dominion software, and Apparently, it is the software that runs on these voting machines that are all over
Yes.
the place.
Yeah, it's owned by a Canadian company, but the software, some of the software that it actually runs, is also owned by a Venezuelan company, some of whom the owners or interest holders are cronies of Maduro.
So let me go through this article here that I found that is very fascinating. The headline on it is, it says, bombshell, the 2020 election took place under a Trump-declared national emergency that set an election day trap for the unauthorized accessing of election and campaign infrastructure. And I read through this article and highlighted some of the high points on it that I found rather interesting. Apparently, there was a little-known executive order signed into existence on September 12th of 2018 by President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this can be confirmed. You can go to whitehouse.gov and you can confirm this. So this is real. The executive order on imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in a United States election. That's what this executive order was for. Now, you remember back when the Democrats were all so concerned, oh, we need to make sure that foreign countries are not interfering in our elections. And they were very, very
Yep.
concerned about that. Of course,
Yeah.
you know that everything the Democrats do is just mostly BS, and they only say this stuff when they think it's going to benefit them. But a lot of time when they talk about things, it's something they're actually involved in, and that's why they're talking about it. I've just like people when they accuse you of something, sometimes it's because they themselves are actually the ones doing what they're accusing you of doing. But so essentially, President Trump declared a national emergency at that time for possible foreign interference into our elections. And that emergency is still in play to this day. And the 2020 election was conducted under this state of emergency. So this executive order would have applied to the 2020 election. So I found something else here. Let's see. Why is this relevant to anything we're seeing right now and the massive election fraud carried out by the Democrats and the deep state? Because Dominion Voting Systems is a Canadian company.
Yes.
Okay, so it's in a foreign country. And Seitel,
well, it gets worse too, because the votes are actually counted in Barcelona, Spain, oddly enough.
It says, yes, and it says here, and Seitel is run out of Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So we got two foreign countries here now involved. We got the Canadians and Spain. It's like, okay, and the question that seems obvious to me is, why are foreign countries counting our votes?
Right.
Why is a foreign country involved in any way whatsoever? I don't get it. So Dominion-based election theft, a foreign interference issue. Seitel, by the way, is connected to George Soros and the Democrats. And according to TGP, which is this news organization, Bill Gates also owns stock in Seitel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This just gets better all the time, and
and wasn't like president or CEO of Seitel up until a few days ago? He was a major crony of George Soros. They got rid of him. I heard that just this morning, 2 days ago, or he stepped down or whatever, so that his name was no longer on the company's header. Something like that.
I think that's in here somewhere. I don't think I've got to that yet, but I think I recall seeing something like that. Voting machine company called the voting machine, the company that makes the machines is called Seitel.
Yeah.
And then and then the Dominion is the software that runs on those machines. It's kind of like you buy a computer and you have Microsoft Windows on it, and it's a computer made by Dell or whatever.
Yeah.
So says here, votes cast by Americans were counted by a bankrupted Spanish company, Seidel, in Spain. Okay, now that really caught my attention. Okay,
Bankrupted?
Bankrupted. They are a bankrupt company. Okay, now, what if someone is bankrupt? Don't they become a little bit desperate? So
yeah.
You have a company like Seidel that is bankrupt, and they're just wondering how they're going to survive another day. And this is just a theory, okay?
Wow.
But say the Democrats come along and say, "Hey, Seidel, we're going to slip you some few $1 billion under the table if you'll do this for us." I'm thinking bribery. I'm thinking blackmail. I'm just thinking there is all kinds of stuff that could be involved here. Voting machines used by the U.S. that are produced by a bankrupt company. What could go wrong there? What do you think?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well,
that's an interesting theory.
If you use the same logic that the left has been trying to apply to our president for the past 4 years, foreign collusion. Come on. I mean, frankly, if they had this much dirt on the president, if they had this type of connection via our president and the voting software, don't you think they'd have been shouting it from the rooftops by now? Seriously? But, you know,
one of our
the other side, oh no, it's all above board. There's no even hint or suspicion of fraud. What are you talking about?
Yeah. One of our viewers here, Bobby, said that she heard that Dominion had lobbyists in D.C.
That would not surprise me at all.
Yep. So we got all kinds of juicy stuff involved here. Dominion software, George Soros involved, Democrats involved, Bill Gates involved, bankruptcy. How much more interesting can that get? It says here also, like Dominion voting systems, Seidel has a long history of election fraud in various nations, including injecting backdoors in its election software.
Wow.
How could a bankrupted Spanish company count American votes in Spain? That just baffles the mind to me.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Now, apparently the chairman of the U.S. Federal Election Commission, Trey Traynor, believes that the 2020 U.S. presidential election is illegitimate. I tend to believe that would be the case. There is so much corruption. There is so much tainting of the votes. I don't know how.
Well, not only that, so apparently 96% of Dominion voting systems political donations, oh yeah, their political donations are on file, went to Democrats. Huh. Yeah. Now, this article from the National Pulse on November 12th, so last week, and they actually have the FEC records. They have pictures of the FEC records of all of their political donations. And yeah, 96% of contributions were directed to Democratic candidates.
By the way, Natalie, here's that article.
Huh?
Here's that article.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Distributed news. Sweet. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see here. Trump's 2018 executive order gives the DOJ the power to seize all assets of individuals and companies that were complicit in aiding or covering up this foreign interference in U.S. elections. Now, this is getting somewhere with something that we talked about the other day that kind of verifies this. That would, of course, have to include practically every CNN fake news anchor, every big tech CEO, every fake news journo terrorist from NBC News, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. They are all complicit in gaslighting America and covering up the massive foreign election interference that took place. I mean, it seemed obvious to me that they were covering stuff up. I mean, the election coverage was bizarre. I mean, it was bizarre.
Well, and not only that, there is actually already a lawsuit on file, and I think it was it a court or congressional opinion on it from Texas. Texas rejected using Dominion in their voting systems.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before the 2020 elections. I believe it was sometime in 2019. I will try to find the article on that as well. But yeah, so it's already been on file that Dominion's kind of suspicious. It is already a matter of record that Dominion was involved in other countries' elections. In fact, the main software company that came up with Dominion, I believe they were from Venezuela. And it was the software used, I think, to rig Venezuela's elections.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not something brand new, nor is it a conspiracy theory.
And this gets so much better, Natalie. I'm teasing you on this is what I'm doing, is because this gets so much better. Okay, so Section 8, the order explains that the term person also means a partnership, association, trust, joint venture, corporation, group, subgroup, or other organization. In other words, any media organization that assisted in covering up or assisting foreign interference in a U.S. election is specifically targeted by this executive order. Further, in the definition section, the executive order explains the term election infrastructure means information and communications technology and systems used by or on behalf of the federal government or a state or local government in managing the election process, including voter registration databases, voting machines, voting tabulation equipment, and equipment for the secure transmission of election results. That would include the Dominion voting systems as well as all other voting systems used in the recent election. So, wow. I'm just highlighting the good stuff here.
Right. Well,
anybody I found, can look this up and read the whole thing, but
I found the article.
You found it? Okay.
Yeah, so, Smartmatic is actually the name of the company who, let's see here, Dominion. Come on, where are they do Smartmatic? There we go. The subsidiary Smartmatic, they're the ones who actually, I believe, came up with the Dominion software itself. And
by the way, Natalie, Diana that's watching us, she said there must have been incentives for states to switch. And yeah, I think this is going to be like where I talked about earlier about bribes, blackmail. There is going to be a money trail. And I'm telling you, they follow this money trail and they are going to find a lot of people that are involved in this.
Well, what's funny is that Dominion's, they call it their democracy suite system. So it was first chosen for statewide implementation in New Mexico in 2013, which is also the same year that it was rejected by the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, also, Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, the state purchased in July 2019 basically the whole suite of software for $106 million for the whole election system. And then let's see here, a lawsuit was actually originated in 2017. So Georgia bought this in 2019, when 2 years ago, there was already a lawsuit on the books against the Dominion voting systems from critics that contended that the new system was subject to many security vulnerabilities, in fact, the same ones as any system that it was already replacing. So that's interesting. So it's been in use for at least 7 years, at least in New Mexico. We've had it since 2013. And then Dominion got into trouble with several subsidiaries it used over alleged cases of fraud. One of their subsidiaries is Smartmatic, which is a company that's played a significant role in the US market for at least the last decade. And Smartmatic's glitches, it's alleged that they impacted the 2010 and 2013 midterm elections in the Philippines. So this is something that has worldwide usage and has potential fraud over its worldwide usage. In fact, one of the Smartmatic's chair members is a member of the British House of Lords, Mark Malloch Brown. He's the former vice chairman of George Soros Investment Funds and former vice president at World Bank.
George Soros just seems to be hip deep in everything, doesn't he?
Yes, or at least, people connected to him. Remember, it's all about who you know. It's all who you know, apparently. So, it's amazing there is so much information on Dominion, and it's going back years and years. And yet 28 states, 28 of our United States used Dominion in the 2020 election cycle.
So this article goes on to talk about how basically if people are found guilty of this is treason.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be falling right into his national emergency trap or his executive order, which means that all of these corporations and organizations can have their assets literally seized overnight.
Wow. Wow.
So this gets much, much deeper, and you're going to really love this. According to a video interview with Representative Lois Gohmert, Republican from Texas, which aired earlier today, which would have been, let's see what the date on this thing, 11/16 is the date on this. So that was today. The U.S. military has just conducted a raid on the server farm of the now bankrupt Seidel company in Barcelona, Spain.
Oh.
Now, it's the U.S. military, okay? Now, the U.S. government, once they determined that this Dominion server was involved in switching votes, then the intelligence community began a search for the server and discovered that the server was in Germany. The U.S. military was not in the lead, but this helps explain why Esper was fired and Miller and Kash Patel were put in place so that the military would not interfere with the operation in any way. By getting a hold of the server, they now are going to have the direct evidence of when they were instructed to stop counting. The CIA was completely excluded from this operation.
Huh.
And it starts to get really good from here.
So wait, the CIA was excluded from the operation that basically took over Seidel's headquarters?
Yes, because the president does not trust the CIA and he doesn't trust the FBI.
Yeah, no. Well, normally on foreign soil, CIA would be head of operations.
Normally they would, but apparently he used people he trusted in connection with the U.S. military.
Well, no wonder. I was reading something about the whistleblower herself who works with the Dominion software, And she was saying that when she first came forward, she called the FBI and got hung up on.
Yeah.
And then when she came forward again, she finally got through to someone at the FBI, and then they never got back to her. She gave them all her information, and they never got back to her. So, yeah, FBI here at home, CIA abroad. Yeah, who can you trust? Not many people, apparently.
So I'll tell you one organization that a lot of these corrupt government types really hate is WikiLeaks.
Oh, yes.
WikiLeaks is a reliable source of information. I'm sorry. How they
Yep.
obtain the information, that's not really the point here. The point is they obtain information that is really good, and it checks out. I've never heard of WikiLeaks information being found to be made up or false.
Yeah.
So this goes on to talk about that they have confirmation from WikiLeaks documents that the CIA used a data center in Frankfurt as a remote hacking base to rig U.S. elections.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah. So you see why the CIA was not involved in this?
German collusion!
Yeah.
Liberal heads should be like exploding right now. The collusion is
You would
real!
think. WikiLeaks released a trove of CIA documents on Tuesday that it claimed revealed details of its secret hacking arsenal. The leaks purportedly revealed that a top secret CIA unit used the German city of Frankfurt am Main. I'm not sure if that's a typo or if that is the name of something, as the starting point for numerous hacking attacks on Europe, China, and the Middle East. German daily, and I can't pronounce this German word. I'll try. Süddeutsche Zeitung, something like that. Reported the building was known to be home to a vast network of intelligence personnel, including CIA agents, NSA spies, military secret service personnel, Department of Homeland Security employees, and Secret Service employees. It reported the Americans had also established a dense network of outposts and shell companies in Frankfurt. It appears the CIA was using the same foreign data center to hack the U.S. elections and got caught.
Wow. Huh.
Fascinating, huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is gonna be good. We're gonna definitely have to post up the links to all of these
Yep.
articles. I mean, I have about 3 or 4 articles myself just
Did you
on
find this one that I'm reading?
no, not that one.
Okay.
The ones that I got actually were through some of the ones that Bongino dug up, as well as some of the ones on the whistleblower. Like, for example, the one about the concerns over Dominion voting system highlighted in the Georgia lawsuit. Yeah, an existing lawsuit already from 2019. Yeah, that's one of them. And that one's interesting because they actually had a declaration from an acknowledged expert on electronic voting security. And he provided a first-hand description of problems he observed during the June 9th statewide primary election in Georgia, and then the runoff elections on August 11th. So he'd been observing this for months already, and he made his official declaration on August 24th. Plenty of time before our, the main elections. So he summarized his findings. Basically, the scanner and tabulation software settings being employed are likely causing clearly intentioned votes not to be counted. The voting system is being operated in Fulton County in a manner that escalates the security risk to an extreme level. And keep in mind, again, this is someone who's an expert specifically in voting systems. He's saying this is an extreme security risk. And then voters are not reviewing their ballot marking devices, printed ballots basically, which causes the generated results to be unauditable due to the untrustworthy audit trail. And the article goes on in similar vein like this. So,
see, this is why all ballots should be paper ballots,
yeah.
regardless of how they ultimately end up getting counted. All ballots should be paper ballots, because that way, if you have those, you can always go back and you can count the paper ballots.
And even Democrats have said this up till several years ago. What's his smarmy face from the Senate? Or was it the House? One of the Democrats. He's on record years ago as saying that, yeah, not having paper ballots would be a real major security risk.
Remember crying Chucky Schumer?
No,
No.
no, Nadler. That's it, Jerry.
Oh, Nadler, the little troll.
Jerry.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Jerry Nadler. He's the one who was insisting on paper ballots as a measure of security. And then he also, at the same time, said that absentee and mail-in ballots, that there was high fraud at risk with mail-in ballots. So it's always funny how they change their tune when it suits them.
Of course. So this goes on, saying it was all carried out on behalf of communist nations like China and globalist operations that are located outside the United States.
Ooh.
We're also told that part of the CIA's rigging of the election in real time involved data being offshored to servers located in Germany and possibly Serbia.
Ooh.
Funding for Dominion was also provided, it is rumored, from wealthy socialists in Venezuela. Now Team Trump is in the process of gathering irrefutable evidence of criminal collusion to carry out election interference, and the cover-up trails will lead directly to big tech, targeted censorship and collusion with China, and the fake news left-wing media gaslighting propaganda campaign to cover up evidence of foreign collusion.
Wow.
Now, according to this, they're saying Trump will be able to arrest and seize the assets of all the top Democrats and deep state traders who attempted to steal the 2020 election, seize all the big tech corporations and left-wing media propaganda outlets that were complicit in the conspiracy. This could include seizing their domain names such as Twitter.com, YouTube.com, Facebook.com, etc., defeat the DNC forever by revealing overwhelming evidence of widespread election fraud, which will also result in a nationwide call for a voter ID system for all future elections, and solidify his own standing as the brilliant mastermind president of the USA for a second term, and perhaps the third, we dare say.
Wow. Well, when Sidney Powell was talking about the Dominion system, she actually was saying that the whistleblower who came forward to talk about it has seen this software, this whole election suite rig elections in other countries. And they can even stick a thumb drive in the voting machine. They can upload software to it from the internet, from outside the country, from like Germany or Venezuela, and that operations can watch votes in real time and can shift votes in real time or remote access any part of it. Yeah, that sounds like a great system to have.
So this goes on, saying the action plan to achieve all this is underway as you read this. Team Trump already has the full transaction logs of Dominion voting systems, election alterations, and with raids taking place in Europe, more evidence of foreign interference is being secured. Importantly, this enormous cache of vote fraud evidence will be more than sufficient for President Trump to present this evidence to the American people, then declare an illegal insurrection attempt against the United States of America.
Nice.
While deploying U.S. Marshals or military police to arrest the treasonous actors in the United States who attempted to carry out this elaborate criminal fraud.
Well, no wonder Sidney Powell is confident that they're going to be overturning several states' election
He seems
results.
extremely confident.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about all of this too, one of the things I was reading about this last week was that even with Dominion, even with the software that was swapping votes, and there are even videos, there are screenshots and video highlights of the vote swaps happening. The people, especially TikTokers, noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, like, for example, one that's referenced on CNN is when Trump's votes went down by 6,000 and Biden's went up by exactly 6,000. And someone caught that on
Right, I saw that
camera.
video footage from CNN
Yes.
where they were talking and they had the election results there, and you saw the numbers, and you saw, and they did their darndest to make it so you didn't see it, but you saw the numbers flip from
Yeah.
Trump to Biden, and then they cut it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like
So
these people are so deep in this. I mean, they are so complicit.
well, the other thing too is this might not have even gone, or it might have gone undetected, except for the fact that apparently Trump was winning by such a landslide that even the Dominion software couldn't keep up. It couldn't cheat fast enough. And that's why several states had to stop their vote count
Yeah.
to give it time to keep up and to switch over to hand ballots that were waiting nearby.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that interesting. We were all saying before the election that Trump needed to win by a landslide in order to outdistance any of the cheating. And apparently he did, so much so that they just had to pull all the cheating and cheaters out of the woodwork and use everyone and everything, throw everything at it, including the kitchen sink.
Exactly.
And time is not on their side with this, because the longer that this goes, the more lawsuits, the more discovery, and the more time that other officials, departments, and election experts have to look at this, the more they're going to uncover, the more fraud.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just hoping New Mexico is part of that, because, yeah, we've had so much election fraud for so long here. It's almost a joke, which is sad.
So it goes on to talk about something else too. Now, I'm not sure if this is something that can really happen or not, but they mentioned something about once all the evidence is compiled and presented, President Trump merely needs to declare the entire election to be null and void as an artifact of a failed foreign coup attempt against the United States, aided by treasonous operators inside the Democrat Party and certain dark corners of the intelligence community, CIA, FBI, etc.
Mm-mm. I imagine he could do that, but they are going to have a ton of evidence to back that up, and it might still have to be backed up. Gosh, I don't know by who, the Supreme Court. And if that happens, then I believe it goes to either the legislatures of each state to determine how to direct their electors, or to directly to Congress.
Mm-hmm.
I think as if I remember the 12th Amendment correctly, but it might have to go to the state legislatures first, because in
Yeah.
most states that there is a provision for the state legislatures to direct the electors on how to vote. Well, specifically the houses of representatives in each state, the people's houses, because that comes as close to the representation of the people as you're going to get. So, and frankly, if that's the case, the way that everything is divided right now between state legislatures and red versus blue states, and red versus blue majorities, etc., I think there's a good chance that President Trump would still be president. And definitely, if it goes to House of Representatives in the U.S. Congress, Trump will still be the president.
Well, and here's another interesting twist that I was thinking about that I think I might have mentioned to you.
Mm-hmm.
What if the electors decided when they come around to time for them to cast their votes, if they decide, I can see all this vast corruption, and even though these votes that are obviously fraudulent are saying Biden won, I'm going to cast my vote for Trump. It could happen.
It's possible, and it creates a very dangerous precedent. I
It
mean,
does, because
I've had
it
this
would,
question since I was a little girl. When I remember being, I think, 8 or 9 years old, and asking my dad, when I figured out it wasn't really the people who elected the president, they just gave the electors their directions. And I'm like, well, then, Dad, what stops the electors from voting whatever they want to vote instead of going with the people from their states? And his answer was kind of like, well, mainly tradition, but in some states, I guess there are penalties if an elector doesn't vote with supposedly the votes cast in their state. Every state's a little bit different with that, but yeah, it would set a very dangerous precedent, I believe, because now it can be called into question whether the electors are going to represent the will of the people. And it's sort of a dichotomy because, well, what if the electors really do feel that, you know what, we're pretty sure that there was wide-scale fraud and that the people did vote for President Trump. So in the spirit of our office as elector, we feel like we have to represent what the people really wanted. But then it
well,
comes into question, is that what the people really wanted, or are the electors going against the people?
right. But
More
don't
confusion.
you think that maybe the founding fathers had this sort of possible thing in mind when they came up with the whole concept of electors?
Yeah.
So that you
Well,
have that one, you got that stopgap there that possibly if the
well,
electors,
the purpose for electors. So back in 1776, 1800s, yeah, so like 1812, um, the purpose for electors was the electors were the ones who literally took the vote tally from their state and went and cast the vote for their state in Washington. Because, of course, back then they didn't have email, they didn't have video, they didn't have the World Wide Web or the internet or all this fun stuff that helps us to, or even phones for that matter,
right,
that help us to communicate pretty much instantaneously. So every state had to send their electors, and that's why there were rules on by when they had to advise their electors how they were going to be voting. The electors literally represent the state they come from. And that was the main reason why, is that they needed to trust someone to cast their state's votes in Washington. And that's how it was done, is by person. And I've heard some people say, oh, the electors are an outmoded or an outdated thing. I'm like, yeah, well, the main thing is the electoral votes that each state gets gives each state enough of a voice that the whole country is not ruled by the 3 most populous states.
right,
And that was, and even though based on your state's population you may have more votes, more electoral votes, every state I think has a minimum of 3 or 2. I think New Mexico, here we have 3, I think. I have to look that up, make sure. But yeah, so each state, no matter how small you are, no matter how small a population, you have a minimum number of votes. And that is so important. That's how President Trump won the first time around, because all the heartland of America, the middle America votes and electoral votes, those are the ones that added up enough to overturn California and New York.
Yeah. That's why they
And
targeted those states with this fraudulent voting
yep.
fiasco that's going on right now. They targeted those very states.
You know, even if we do a very simple thought exercise, some people are like, oh, you can't prove fraud. You can't prove fraud. I'm like, okay, so maybe at this point, I personally can't prove fraud. There's definitely enough funny business happening that anyone with, you know, 2 brain cells can call the whole election into question. And it's actually very simple. So if you take a look at the 2016 election and how many votes Hillary got in each state, Biden probably got comparable amounts in, you know, the big Democrat states like California, New York, even some of the smaller Democrat states like Washington and Oregon. But how can you say that it's not a sign of funny business that, you know, he got kind of comparable numbers to Hillary, maybe some less here and there, until we get to the main 6 battleground states. And suddenly, he not only outperformed Hillary Clinton, Biden, the most unpopular Democrat candidate of all time,
Yeah,
got
pretty
even
much.
more votes than Obama in battleground states. These aren't even sure things for the Democrat Party. So he got way, 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 way more votes in states that could have swung either way, more so than even Obama. But the ratios aren't the same in the heavy Democrat states. Yeah, that right there is just a little fishy.
Yeah.
At least.
So there's just so much fishy about this election
Yeah.
that I don't see how anybody that has a thinking brain in their head, or of course maybe a lot of people don't have a thinking brain left in their head from wearing the mask for so much.
Right.
Maybe they've actually lost so many brain cells that they can't see this.
Oh, thank you, Diana. Diana on Facebook says each state has a minimum of 3 votes. New Mexico has 5. Thank
Okay.
you very much for clearing that up. But I knew it was an odd number, but yeah, I wasn't sure which one.
So kind of, I think we've kind of beaten that one to death right now. What do you think? So
At least,
yeah,
there's so much more information. Like
there
Cindy
is.
Pell said, it's like drinking from a fire hydrant, and
It is.
there's so much more information coming to light. Again and again, you know, every day, like I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, more
Yeah.
again. Wow.
By the time we get around to Saturday on our next radio show, we're going to have so much stuff piled up. It's just going to be
I
crazy.
know. I feel like I have to put together a compendium.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much. Yeah,
So
don't let anybody tell you, oh, there's not really any proof out there, etc. At the very least, there are hundreds of people who have been willing to sign their names to affidavits
there's a
saying that they
mountain of truth.
witnessed. Yeah, saying that they've witnessed election fraud. And I'm sorry, when you sign your name to an affidavit, that's basically witness testimony. And now you are subject to perjury laws if you're lying. And the courts can prosecute you for perjury.
Right.
Yeah. So don't tell me that thousands of people have been willing to perjure themselves and put themselves at the mercy of the courts for a lie or a myth. Really? No, those allegations that are signed to those witness testaments, that's called proof.
Yeah. And there's hundreds of them, thousands of them, maybe
Yeah.
by now. So hey, if anybody has if anybody has noticed my little thing here,
Oh, yeah, yeah. The extra eyebrow.
I had a little bit of a not a little bit of a bad experience, a
A
really
big
bad
one, a
experience,
big fall.
a big bad experience.
Yes.
On Friday morning, I had I was getting over a little bit of a head cold or something that seemed to be lingering, and I went to my doctor about it. And he gave me a medication that was supposed to help me, and our friend Leo said it was the wrong medication. I talked to him
Really?
about it. Yeah, that's what he said. And he, regardless, whatever it was, I had a bad allergic reaction to it. I broke
Hmm.
out hives. I got lightheaded. I was taking a shower Friday morning, and I literally lost consciousness while I was taking a shower and washing my hair. 10 minutes later, I found myself laying on the bathroom floor in a pool of blood. And with this, looked really bad at the time. I had gone to the hospital. I spent the entire day in the hospital. Um, and I was dehydrated and a number of other things. And I literally was laying in a bed in the emergency ward at UNMH all day on Friday and hooked up to an IV, and they put about 3 bags of saline in me and ran all kinds of tests and determined that I had not sustained a head injury.
Well, that's good. No
Yeah,
concussion, at least.
and they were concerned that maybe I had some kind of a heart attack or something, but they ruled that out too. And so I think it was just an allergic reaction that just snowballed into a lot of other stuff. And there was a real nice nurse there by the name of Cheryl that took care of me a lot of time I was there, and she's her, and then the one doctor that was helping me out. His name was Anthony, and thank God it wasn't Fauci. It was it was somebody else. And the two of
Fauci
them.
hasn't had a living,
Yeah,
breathing.
I'd probably been on a ventilator if Fauci would have been there.
Right. Well, I don't think Dr. Fauci has
Yeah,
seen a living, breathing patient in over, I don't know, someone said 20 or 30 years once. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
been a long time.
So
I don't think he remembers how to
the
be a
good news
doctor.
is that I had been having a problem for several days, maybe even close to a couple of weeks, with extreme dehydration and everything else,
Mm.
and they seem to have straightened me out by putting me on on those IV bags all day long, because I have felt much better since then. It's like, wow, that really actually made me feel pretty good. So
They probably rehydrated you.
they did. They rehydrated me. So, um, yeah, that was my day, and I got out of there. They kicked me out of there at about midnight
Oh,
on
good.
Friday, and so it was. But one thing I can tell you: hope to God you never have to have stitches in your face. Okay, I have never been through anything so painful in my life. They had to, of course, when you go to the dentist and you get the
Hmm.
injections in your mouth so you can get
Oh,
your teeth
yeah.
done. Well, they had to use that same stuff on my face, and I have never experienced so much pain in my entire life. Um, Numbing my face with Novocaine was, I think, the worst experience I have ever been through.
Ooh, yeah.
Stitches was a breeze after they got all those injections of the Novocaine done.
Right, right.
Anyway, so there's the story behind that, in case you were wondering about the stitches in my face. The doctor says he thinks it will heal up pretty good.
Oh, good. Have you put castor oil on it yet?
No, I don't think I have any of that. Maybe you think maybe some. What else would work?
Vitamin E oil works well, but I've heard and I've witnessed the castor oil really helps wounds heal fast.
Yeah.
And so we just started keeping some. You can, get it at a pharmacy.
I have some stuff that maybe you've seen before. Donna
Mm.
gave it to me, and I think it comes from like the Asian store or something. It's called Dermagene.
Oh,
and it comes in a little tin, you know, about that big, and it's like a white kind of paste.
Like tiger's balm?
No, it's called Dermacure, and it's got like
Dermacure.
Chinese writing on it and stuff. And
Ooh, try
but
that.
I kid you not, if you've got like a skin irritation or anything, you put a little bit of that on there, and within a couple of days, it's totally healed. The stuff is
Ooh.
the stuff is amazing.
Does it work on cold sores?
Probably, I wouldn't doubt it.
And I need to find tiger's balm again because that used to be the best thing for cold sores.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, Leo suggests I not put anything on it till the stitches come out. I thought I'd just kind of leave it.
Yeah.
I've been making sure to keep soap away from it and skin cream and everything away from it. They said for me to stop back by on Wednesday and they'll take the stitches out.
Right.
So
Okay, good.
So
Very good.
another interesting article I found, those of you that are fans of Gavin Newsom in California. Apparently, a judge ruled that he overstepped his authority by mandating vote by mail ballots.
Woohoo!
And says here, and this is an article by Sarah Carter. I think she's very reputable. Newsom did so under the guise of an emergency due to, and I'm not going to say the word because I decided the other day I'm not going to say the word. It starts with a C and ends with a D. Okay.
Oh, Wuhan virus.
The Wuhan virus. That's right. That's what I
Yeah. China virus. China virus.
That's the China virus. Guise of an emergency due to the China virus. However, Heckman, which is the judge, said that wasn't even reason enough to trample election law with the executive order that required all Californians receive vote-by-mail ballots for the November 3rd general election.
Wow.
It's so good to hear about a judge scolding somebody for trampling election law.
Yes!
Yeah. I would like to hear more of them talking about trampling constitutional rights.
Uh-huh. Well, it's interesting because judges, by and large, for the most part, I found, they see the value in our Constitution. And even a judge like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you know, rest in peace, even she did not believe in packing the court. And sometimes she also, you know, ruled in decisions with some of her more conservative counterparts as well. Judges and justices tend to, they know and they see that their decisions uphold, you know, law and order, and they tend to have a really clear-cut view of, okay, if you are a governor, these are your powers, your plenary powers. Plenary meaning unique only to you or to that one office. If you're the legislature, these are your plenary powers, making the law. As a governor, you cannot make laws. You cannot add to the laws. The executive branch is merely supposed to uphold and execute the law of the land, whatever that is at that point in time. And then judges and justices, their purview is interpreting the law. So I think even though some judges might be more liberal or more Democrat, they still tend to have an appreciation for the separation of powers within the three branches of government. And I'm getting the feeling that a lot of justices are getting really pissed off with the various people in executive branches around the country who think that they can make or reinterpret laws.
Yeah, I would think so. Unfortunately, I think that this stuff is going to have to go to the Supreme Court ultimately because it's becoming kind of obvious that it looks like a lot of these state governments, especially in blue states, are corrupt.
Yeah. Well, on a good note with the election, apparently starting last Friday, the largest hand retally of ballots in U.S. history got underway in Georgia. So Georgia is indeed, they're in the middle of a hand recount, all 159 counties.
And are they having observers of both political parties involved in these recounts?
Let's see here. According to their Secretary of State, he chose to audit the presidential race and said the tight margin means a full hand count is needed. Hand count is normal. It doesn't say. Well, it says the audit is a new requirement that was included in a 2019 law that also provided guidelines that the state used to purchase a new election system. Okay. I guess it was kind of a backup to the election system itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not seeing here. Now, I'm pretty sure that the president's team is not going to just allow Georgia to do a hand count without some kind of guarantee for
Yeah,
the
there should be,
certification thereof.
they should be sitting there at tables. When they go to a ballot, there should be a Republican and a Democrat there inspecting each
Yeah.
and every ballot as they go through and count them. That's the way it should be done.
Yeah, and it was the Trump campaign that called on them initially to conduct a full hand recount of all ballots. So I'm sure they're going to be looking at that. Something interesting too that I heard today was so far, no one state in the United States has certified their election results.
Interesting.
Wonder why that might be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm also pretty sure that some of the litigation going on, that's you're starting to hear from the mainstream media that, oh yeah, some of the litigations being dismissed, that means that the fraud didn't exist. No, I'm pretty sure that some of the litigation was stopgap litigation, meaning, if for example, because I've seen several petitions for temporary restraining orders. So if there's a restraining order against, say, the county clerk or the Secretary of State or even the election commission board in a given state, they're basically suing for time, and they want the court to issue a temporary restraint on the election officials or the election board so that they stop cheating. And I think some of these measures were stopgap measures to go ahead and stop the cheating, or at least interrupt it, so that way the courts could start to intervene, and also maybe even give them more time to bring the real suits with the real, like, let's say, affidavits that are cropping up,
Well, that would
or
make sense, yeah.
or
You
even give a
come in
little
here
bit
and you
more
slap
time.
them with that suit real quick just so that you can buy yourself some time that you need.
Right. Or even give more time for discovery, or even give an excuse for discovery, because you can't do discovery until it heads to court. And also give more time for the proof to actually crop up, and maybe for your investigators to gather proof about election fraud, because that does take time. It's not quick, it's not overnight, and thankfully a lot of people have been coming forward about it, but it's by no means an overnight type thing.
Yeah.
So the good thing is that we do have till December, when our electors absolutely have got to know their direction. They have to know which way they're voting. But it's interesting too, is even though I know a few days ago someone said, "Oh, the president gave up on Arizona." No, again, that was one of those lawsuits that they finally determined didn't have a real value. But Arizonians themselves, the citizens, are calling for recount and audit of votes. So just because litigation comes to an end, or a specific type of litigation comes to an end in the court, does not mean that it's over.
Yeah.
Like I know here in New Mexico, we still have people working on calling for a recount. And who knows, maybe we'll have to petition for some kind of injunction ourselves in order to get a recount. You know, hint, hint, any lawyers out there, you know, look into that, please, please.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I
So,
also tonight wanted to cover a few things closer to home about our, you know, Mad Lupita governess
well, of course.
and her power tripping, because, you know, no one power trips like our governess
Oh
does,
yeah,
apparently.
she's loving this stuff. She's and I think it's a Napoleon complex, is what it is.
Oh yeah, little Napoleonita.
Yeah.
She just can't help herself. I swear, she cannot help herself. But so one of our listeners had called in on Saturday and mentioned Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals and 8 levels of control.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because if you take a look at those, you know, for those who don't know, Saul Alinsky is greatly revered by Marxists. In fact, Hillary Clinton did her college thesis on him, and Obama has written about him in his books. He died over 40 years ago. But his writings influenced those who are in political control of our nation today. So his 8 rules for, or 8 levels of control, I should say, if you take a close look at them, they sound very familiar. Number 1 is healthcare. Control healthcare, and you control the people. Boom, right there. Obamacare, Medicaid. Yeah, Obamacare basically torpedoed the entire private healthcare industry and damaged it so irreparably that to this day, more and more uh, healthcare companies are pulling out of the Affordable Care Act.
You know, and personally, what I have noticed, I think healthcare overall has gone completely down the tubes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
medical, and I'm not going to call it healthcare insurance, it's medical insurance.
No.
Okay. And before all of this Obama nonsense with the Obamacare, you used to be able to go out, shop around, and you used to be able to get a pretty good deal on whatever medical insurance suited your needs. And for me, since I'm a healthy person and I usually don't really have any kind of real problems, I had a minimal medical insurance program that provided me with a yearly checkup, which I would go and I would get a yearly checkup, and it covered that. And it gave me a safety net in case something bad happened. And after Obama did his thing to the medical insurance industry, my medical insurance got canceled, and the crap insurance that I was offered after that was 3 times as much and didn't cover it as much. And so I haven't had medical insurance since then. And
Wow.
when I go to the doctor now, I just pay cash, whatever I need, because I don't have to go very often. And I just I'm dreading to think what that bill's going to look like for the hospital the other day. But I'll have to pay that. So
yeah. So unfortunately, healthcare, yeah, you control healthcare, you control people. Number 2 is poverty. Increase the poverty level as high as possible, because poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you are providing everything for them to live.
yeah.
Welfare state.
Well, you destroy people's businesses that they've spent every dime that they have in these mom and pop businesses, especially the restaurants, and you put them out of business and bankrupt them.
Reduce the available jobs.
Especially if they're older people that own these businesses, they can't start over at that point. You can't start over. You're going to be
And
struggling
also,
for the rest of your life.
but by labeling certain businesses as essential and others as non-essential, now you've greatly reduced the workforce. You've reduced the number of jobs out there. And the other one, number 3, is increase the debt to an unsustainable level. That way, you're able to increase taxes, and this will produce more poverty. And I thought that that was a really interesting distinction, because oftentimes Democrats say, oh, but more taxes is going to equal more wealth for the country. No, more taxes equals more poverty.
Yeah. And actually, Diana just made a comment to me about the hospital bill. She said, call them and ask for a self-paid discount.
Oh,
And keep calling until they work with you. So
that is a
should I
great
wait to
point.
see the bill they send me, Diana, because I haven't even seen the bill yet. I probably won't see the bill for a while yet.
Not only that, but keep in mind that medical bills are not the same as, say, credit card bills.
Yeah.
Credit card bills have, so it used to be you had to pay 1/48th of the balance every month to prevent it from ballooning out of control. Somewhere after Obama's bloated card act, that changed a little bit. But with medical bills, it's not the same, because unlike a credit card, you didn't take it against your credit, or you didn't take it like a car loan against any collateral. So you can pay a minimum. And I believe, last I remember, $10 is kind of the minimum across the board.
Diana said
Bill,
self-pay discount is around 40%.
nice. And Diana, is it true too that it's still like $10 is still the minimum payment? I know billing companies don't like to tell you that, but the few billing companies that I've dealt with, and we've still got some bills that we're paying $10 on, and every time they try to send us to collections, I call them and go, "Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. I know I can pay $10 a month for the duration, the rest of this bill. Doesn't matter how many thousands of dollars it is. I can pay $10 a month, and you can't send me to collections." And every single time they've taken it back.
That might be true, because I remember years ago, it's been a long time ago, but it seems like I had medical bills that I had to pay. I eventually paid them, but I remember that I paid a really minimal amount every month, and they pretty much will just take whatever you can give them.
Yeah. I think it used to be $5 once upon a time, but I want to say about a decade ago that changed to 10. I forget why. But yeah, no, if you know what your rights are, then yeah, and I've had some billing companies call me and try to say, well, we need to get you on a payment plan, so if you can do 150 a month, and I'm like, no, I can do 10 a month.
Yeah.
That's it. 10 a
Yeah.
month. Oh, but that's not one of our payment plans. Too bad, so sad. I know how it works.
Well, Diana here says that's still the minimum, what you said,
Yes.
apparently, and they will
Awesome.
eventually work with you because they lose money when it goes to collections.
Precisely, because then the collections company, basically they would have to sell the debt in order to give it to a collections company, and they sell it for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
So if they're selling $1,000 debt to a collections company, the collection company maybe will give them $100 for it. Maybe.
Right.
So they'd rather go, okay, they can pay $10 a month, and in 10 months we get $100. So yeah, that's better than nothing.
So I had mentioned this on our Saturday radio show, and I thought I'd mention it today too, a little bit about the basically the war on religion that's been going on for quite some time.
Yes.
And my favorite pastor out in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, I consider him to be my pastor. even though he's all the way across the country. If I lived, but I'd be attending service 3 times a week if I lived out there.
Yes.
But Pastor Tony Spell out at Life Tabernacle Church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which I have mentioned from time to time. I like to talk about the progress he's making, because he's fighting against this attempted forced shutdown of the church, which they've been going after him personally. They've been going after his church, and he's been running it through the court system. And from what I heard from him last, he said that he's going to be getting his case up to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Oh,
so
good.
This is not just a Baton Rouge thing. This just isn't a thing just with him. This is going to impact. It will set a precedent for churches across the entire country. And I actually posted a text to Steve Smotherman on his broadcast he did, I think, earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he read it or not, but I told him he needs to coordinate with Pastor Spell, because they're both trying to accomplish the same thing.
Right. And it looks like Pastor Spell's going to make it to the Supreme Court first.
Exactly. So I really do think that Pastor Smotherman should give him a call and say, hey, what can I do to help?
And by the way, religion being under attack, that's right there in Alinsky's 8 rules for 8 levels of control. In fact, it's number 7. Remove the belief in God from the government and the schools.
Because people that have faith and they have religion, it's hard to influence those people as much because they have hope.
Yeah.
People with faith, these things that are going on in the material world that we live in don't affect them as much.
Well, and also their loyalty is not to the state. The idea in creating a social state is that everyone's allegiance has to be to the state first, above God, above family, above anything else in your life. Is you have to have your loyalty to the state. That's why it's such socialism is such humanist claptrap. It came out of humanism, and humanism is nothing but people living in rebellion against God and trying to prove that God is not necessary to human life.
Here's something interesting too before it flips my mind. This judge that Pastor Spell has been dealing with locally in Louisiana actually made a statement to him ridiculing baptism and the laying of hands.
What?
Baptism serves no purpose. Can you believe
not for you to determine. That's not for the judge to determine.
A judge saying something like this about a person's religious beliefs? I'm sorry, baptism is something that is a common practice with a lot of churches.
If I were Tony Spell's lawyer, I would actually move to have the trial with a different judge based on the fact that this judge is biased against my client on religious grounds.
Oh, well, here's the interesting thing about that case, though, with this judge. How this judge was preventing that from happening is the judge refused to close the case. He just kept it open. He wouldn't find a verdict in the case. He just left it, just kept
he just left it hanging out there.
Exactly. So Pastor Spell was going to go ahead and file with the U.S. Supreme Court anyway, but turns out the day that he was getting ready to do that, judge found him, he found him guilty, but he wasn't going to do anything about it. That's
interesting. Right. So he didn't want to hand down a not guilty verdict.
No, he didn't want to dismiss the case or anything like that. He found a guilty verdict and just said, but I'm not going to act on it.
Because the judge knows that a guilty verdict, if he assigns any penalty and it's ruled unconstitutional by a higher court, that judge has to answer for that.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want one of his verdicts to be overturned by a higher court. So I think what the judge is hoping is that the higher court will see, well, there's no reason to overturn this because there was no penalty assessed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what he's gambling on there. Although if I were the pastor, I'd still be like, no,
No.
guilty my ass.
Right. Exactly. He's not going
I'm gonna appeal
he's
for it to
not
be
letting it later.
overturned
He
anyway.
wants to find he wants to get a ruling on this that says that the First Amendment applies. And that's he's not going to stop until he gets that result. So, I love that guy, and every preacher in this country that is fighting should be joining him, because he's ahead of the curve, I think, on everybody else as far as it goes with the legal battle.
And while we need to fight the legal battles. It's it's the civilized man and woman's way of fighting a battle. I mean, the whole reason that we have courts is so that people don't have to fight with weapons in the street. We're able to take a disagreement that normally before civilization would come to blows and duke it out in a court of law and have a justice or a jury as mediators. So we need to take advantage of that. We need to use the courts while we still can. And actually, it brings me to Alinsky's fourth rule for creating a social state: gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. That way, you are able to create a police state. When people cannot defend themselves, then you have a police state.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our Second Amendment helps us protect all of our other rights. All of our other rights. And unfortunately, when we're no longer able to get justice via the courts, our Second Amendment rights are the only thing that is going to help keep us free.
And apparently I heard just today that apparently the Mad Lady Governor is shutting down the Zia gun and pistol range.
What?
Which is an outdoor range.
Is she also shutting down Del Norte?
I'm not sure. I just heard that. And I made a comment to my friend on there that runs the New Mexico gun something or other. He posted about that, and I told him, I said, well, I guess the Mad Lady Governor wants to make sure that we are not well practiced when the armed revolution begins.
Right. Right. Well, hand in hand with that, so let's see, gun control is number 4. So far we have healthcare, poverty, debt, gun control. Number 5 is welfare. Take control of every aspect of the people's lives. So food, housing, income. Oh yeah, that kind of falls in line with the rising rates of poverty. And then number 6, yeah. Number 6, education. Take control of what people read and listen to. Take control of what children learn in school. We know that they've been doing this for decades already. It's unfortunately why we're in this mess in the first place, because they have dumbed down our children and our current generations so that they think that, oh yeah, the governor has the absolute right to, make these public health mandates.
Well, just like as it applies to the Second Amendment, for years they've been whittling away at our Second Amendment. Okay, the Second Amendment is very, very clear. It says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, so that would mean you don't have to. You shouldn't have to get a permit to carry a gun.
Right.
You shouldn't have to get a permit to conceal carry a gun if you want to conceal carry it. You shouldn't have to pay for a background check. You shouldn't have a background check.
Yeah.
Period. All of this crap
we should
is
not have all
unconstitutional.
Now, all those red flag laws are unconstitutional.
Right.
Technically, even having to have a concealed carry permit is unconstitutional.
It is. Realistically, if the Second Amendment was upheld, and who knows, maybe if all of this stuff shakes out and all of this fraud shakes out and we really, really take a hard look at constitutional rights and these things go to the Supreme Court, a lot of laws should be thrown out.
Yes.
If I want to go anywhere in this country, and I mean any state in this country, anywhere, any city in this country, according to the Second Amendment, I should be able to carry my gun.
Yes.
And as long as I'm not breaking a law or assaulting somebody with it, I should be allowed to carry a gun.
Yep. Yep.
So people have just been desensitized, I think, to this.
Yeah, desensitized, brainwashed.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, it's just this, you know, and well, no, but this is unconstitutional.
And media falls into the whole education thing because they're controlling what people are reading and listening to and hearing. And that's also, I think, one reason why, you know, years ago under Obama, he made a real bid to try to seize control of the internet with net neutrality, which was anything but net neutrality.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because they realized at that point in time that the internet, people were starting to get their information from sources other than trusted media sources.
Like the fairness doctrine that they try to kick in for like radio stations. Okay. Liberal radio stations don't make it. And the reason they don't make it is because people don't want to listen to them.
Yeah, it's just propaganda.
Yeah. Like now we have, you know, we obviously have a liberal listener on our radio show now, which actually, we're having some fun with him. So I hope he doesn't stop calling in.
Yes.
Yeah. Because
we love you, Chris. Yes,
we love to
bring your facts next time, like a good boy. But yes, definitely call us again.
Yeah, we'll be glad to talk to him.
Absolutely.
And but the fairness doctrine, no, people should be able to say whatever they want to say, and if people like Chris want to call in and want to question us, then we're not going to censor him. We're not going to hang up on him. We're going to talk to him. We're going to give him a little bit of time. We're going to talk to him because we believe that the First Amendment applies.
Yeah, and we don't actually want to control what people hear or read or see. No, we just want everyone to, you know, have access to the truth.
Right.
And the right to air their own opinions like we do. And the eighth rule here for creating the social state by Saul Alinsky is one that I find very interesting. Class warfare.
There's been lots of that going on.
Divide the people into the wealthy and the poor. This will cause more disconnect, and it'll be easier to take from or tax the wealthy with the support of the poor. It's the whole haves versus the have-nots.
Well, this happened during World War II Germany to the Jews. Yeah. They demonized the Jews. And then before you know it, the Jews are being marched into the gas chambers and being murdered because people went along with it because they demonized them and made people think that they were the enemy.
For me, I like to title it class envy, because that's what they're really doing, is they are using envy, and there's a reason envy is listed as a sin in the 10 Commandments. You know, thou shalt not covet, because they're using man's natural tendency to want what they don't have. And they use it to control us. Oh, you want what they have and they are not willing to share with you all. But if you give us the power, we'll make sure that it gets equally distributed, which really means that it won't get equally distributed and it'll still stay, wealth still will stay in the top 1%, because, that's how politics actually works.
My friend David that's on our chat said that the mayor of New York is demonizing Jews.
Yes, he's been doing that, demonizing Jews, but then providing meals for Muslims. Funny how that works.
Yeah. And just like how the standard practice that they do is they call conservatives racist.
Yeah.
And say this, and there's no evidence to back it up that conservatives are racist. As a matter of fact, we're the opposite of that. If anything, Democrats and historically have done things that are racist.
Yes.
So, but yet they say we're racist, and they keep saying it all the time, and they keep saying it, and people start believing it. It's like, no, we're not racist.
It's like, no, you guys are the ones who are trying to pit people against each other based on the color of their skin. It literally doesn't matter to us what color someone is, or even what their, say, sexual identity is. It doesn't matter. It is the left who is always trying to pit one side against another because of victim culture.
Even the walk away movement is led by a gay man.
Oh yeah, the hashtag walk away.
Yeah.
Candace Owens with her hashtag Blexit, the black.
Yeah.
Basically
Did you
black
watch their little get together they had in DC over the weekend on Sunday?
I heard about it. Yeah.
Had a bunch of speakers there, and he even had Ricky Rebel there. I like Ricky Rebel.
Yes. Well, weren't they part of the Million MAGA March thing?
Yeah, they were. There was, like, from what I understand, there was about 3 different groups that were converging on DC over the weekend, and
of course, it was 100% peaceful until Antifa showed up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, I've seen some of the videos of Antifa and people with Black Lives Matter t-shirts terrorizing children. I mean, one of them in particular, a black mother. Of course, it doesn't matter to us what color she is, but I find it just awfully ironic that it's this black mother pushing a stroller where she's hidden her toddler underneath signs to protect him, and she's trying to keep track of her 2 preteen daughters, and she's got a megaphone, and she is desperately trying to keep these Black Lives Matter activists, protesters, away from her daughters. And then someone with a libertarian sign steps in and tries to help defending her, and then he gets tackled and one of the little girls goes flying. Yeah. Wow. And the girls are just sobbing by the end of the video, and the police, finally, after one of the little girls gets hurt, come in and start, pulling people aside, and they're like, okay, that's it, we're arresting everyone that was involved.
By the way, you know that the Antifa.com website still goes to Biden.
Goes to Joe Biden. I know.
It's Biden's website, Antifa.com. You wonder why he doesn't ever denounce Antifa and the violence and stuff like that. It's because that's his supporters.
Yeah. Gee, wonder why, Biden. But yeah, no, so I found it very interesting. There was another family too, a mother with her young daughter, another black family, that were also being heckled by white Black Lives Matter supporters. And again, it doesn't matter to us what color anyone is, but it is just awfully ironic that supposedly Black Lives Matter wants Black lives to matter, supposedly, one would suppose from their title, and yet all we see are majority white people heckling black families with children. Like,
let me tell you what I think about the name Black Lives Matter. It's like going to Discount Tires to buy tires for your car. That's the name of the business. You're not necessarily going to get tires that are discounted.
Right. That's
It's
right.
just the name of the business. It's the brand name. Just like
Yes, it is.
BLM, it doesn't have anything to do with Black Lives Mattering.
Nope.
Not at all.
They make so much money, and they don't give any of that money to Black communities to help make them better. It's all activism,
Yeah, you would
all
think
of
that if
it.
that it was really about Black Lives Mattering, that they would be taking this money and they'd be going into impoverished communities and they'd be investing money in programs to help people out. But no, none of that's happening.
Yeah, no, they don't really care.
No,
No.
no.
Yeah, well, Antifa, interesting how the news doesn't like to highlight the fact that Antifa has already been declared a domestic terror organization by the government.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah.
You're not going to get the truth on the news. You know what I've been doing, Natalie, is I compiled a list of news sources that although I'm getting more and more of them all the time,
Mm-hmm.
that I think are reputable that you could like listen to on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
OANN, One
Mm-hmm.
American News Network, very
Yeah.
good. Right Side Broadcasting, now that
Oh,
they're not
yeah.
covering Trump rallies anymore, they're out there covering just events that are going on.
Yeah.
Any kind of rallies that are being held that are any of significance at all, they're out there covering them.
And anytime the president speaks, they show the
Yeah,
president.
they
There he
they show up
is.
and they cover it uninterrupted. The Blaze is really good.
Mm-hmm.
The Epic
Yeah.
Times.
Yep, Epic
Well, man,
Times
I
is
love.
great. I've
Yeah,
been getting all of my election updates, most of them from the Epic Times. They
yeah. They
do
have
a
a printed
really good
version and
job.
they also have an online site.
Yes, their online site has a map of the whole election process. And I believe right now it's free to join. You
Hmm.
can, yeah, because I joined just with my email. So normally they have a paywall, but for time they have it free because of all the election coverage.
And of course, people that are conservative talk show people that are on
Mhm.
radio, they're on TV. Mark Levin, Dan
Rock of
Bongino,
Talk.
Rock of Talk. That's our
That's right.
station, of
Yeah,
course.
93.7 FM, 1600
1600
AM,
AM,
or go,
Albuquerque.
or now for New Mexico, you can go to rockoftalk.chat.
Yep.
And it's free for the rest of November, by the way. Eddie said he's
Oh,
making
good.
it free for the rest of
That's a
November.
good idea. That gives people a chance to check it out.
Yes. And he's got articles on there, he's got links on there. You can even re-listen to shows. You can listen to Late Liberty Ladies if you didn't catch us live on Saturday. You can listen to our whole show, and the show is annotated with the links to where we talk about things in the show, each specific timestamp, and we include links to outside sources. And I know because I get to provide them. I do the annotation for our show.
Isn't that awesome?
So links that we talk about or even that other people reference and give us, we include those in our annotated show notes. So if you go
Right.
to rockoftalk.chat, you can listen to our Saturday show and you can pull up the links with the information on art, articles, etc. Along with it, do a read along while you listen along.
And
It's
by the way,
awesome.
for those of you that don't know yet, we are live on Saturday from 1 to 4 on
Yes.
Rock of Talk. We have a call-in number and everything. You can call in. You can chat with us while we're on the air.
Yeah, 1 to
That was
4
last
every
week.
Saturday. Although last Saturday we went till 5.
We did. It's like Eddie said, well, can you stay on a little longer? It's like, oh, sure, why not?
Yes.
But we like Mark Levin, Dan Bongino, of course,
Mhm.
Rush Limbaugh. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and Breitbart News is good, and so is Newsmax.
Yes. And then for local news, I can't recommend the Pinion Post enough. The guy at Pinion Post is great about chasing down stories that the rest of our local news outlets would kind of rather ignore. Especially as pertains to politics in this state. So Pinion Post, PINON Post.com, is a great one for local news at the state level.
Yep. So, what do you think? You want to wrap it up for today now?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. So, yeah, you guys check us out on our radio show on Saturday too.
Yes.
We're having a lot of fun on there. It's
We
awesome.
are. And I had someone ask me, they're like, well, I thought that you were going to stop doing the live streams once you had the radio show, because the radio show lasts so long. And I'm like, are you kidding? We could talk 3 hours a day and not run out of anything to say. So yeah, no, we're not going to end our live stream. Plus here you get to see our beautiful faces. Although might be getting to see our faces in the KIVA at some point. You know, more updates on that one to come.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, just the ways that you can watch us or find out about us or whatever. We, of course, are on the Rock of Talk now on Saturdays, 1 to 4, 93.7 FM, 1600 AM in Albuquerque. And then, of course, you can also put the Rock of Talk app on your phone and watch and listen to it that way. Then, of course, we have our Facebook here of Liberty Ladies Unite. And we have Liberty Ladies on YouTube and Rumble. And we have our email address of libertyladiesunite@gmail.com.
Gmail. That's right. And pretty soon here, I'm going to start us up on Parler and possibly MeWe as well.
Okay, cool.
Because MeWe is a good alternative to Facebook, and not that we're going to abandon you guys on Facebook. We still get a kick out of using Facebook's platform against them. But, you know, at some point here, who knows, especially as our reach is growing. Last Monday, our post of this live stream had like a reach of 1,600.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of reach on that. So people don't necessarily watch it live, but they catch it later. So
yeah, so we realize that as our reach extends, that eventually Facebook is probably going to try to put the kibosh on us. But don't worry, I'm going to be lining up alternatives. And of course, we're not on Twitter. But hey, you know what? Parler's great. I've been really enjoying my Parler app. And there's, gosh, I could follow Dinesh D'Souza. He got banned from Facebook.
Oh yeah, he's good to listen to too.
Oh, he's awesome.
Diana actually asked about Parler. Apparently, she hasn't seen it before. So, Parler, Diana, is another social media platform. So you can put the app on your phone. It's
Parler.com. And I'm on it personally. I'm at Minuet myself. But I want to get a Liberty Ladies page up there too, so that we can start posting our live stream videos on Parler as well. It's kind of like Twitter, and it's a little more robust than Twitter. Yeah. You can use more characters, and they don't censor you, which is the best. So yeah, you know, a lot of people have left Facebook and Twitter in droves, and are even leaving YouTube in droves. So yeah, we've got a brave new world out there, and tech is a big part of that. And I hope you all consider supporting some of these other startup tech companies, particularly the ones like Rumble and Parler, who promise not to censor people, and they promise to uphold the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Because we need more companies like that.
For sure.
Definitely.
So our new saying is that we both came up with. Actually, I came up with it, and Natalie likes it. I'm a big Star Trek fan. Resistance is not futile.
That's right. That's right.
So keep fighting out there. Don't go along with this crap, these mandates and all this nonsense, because they're not laws.
Stay free.
Stay free. And realize what your constitutional rights are and stand up for them.
Yes. So we're your Liberty Ladies, and we
unite. And we'll catch you next Monday, and hopefully you can catch our radio show on Saturday.
That's right.
Good night.
Stay free, everybody. Peace out.